Hi, I'm Bill Pearis, an editor at Brooklyn Vegan, and you are listening to BV Interviews, which features conversations with some of our favorite musicians. This week, we're talking to Carl Newman of Canadian indie rock institutions, the New Pornographers. The band's 10th album is titled The Former Sight Of, and it might be their most synth-forward record to date. Carl and I discussed that topic among many others, including how lyrically this album is different than any of their previous 9. We also talked mandolins, tiki bars, payphones, plus memorable New York City shows, and we finally get to the bottom of whether the New Pornographers are indie sleaze or not. The answer may surprise you. This is a fun one, and keep an ear out for Carl's dog Banjo making an appearance in the background of this one. All right, let's get into it. Here's my conversation with Carl Newman of the New Pornographers. Today, I'm excited to have as my guest Carl Newman, who has been leading Canadian indie rock band New Pornographers since the late 90s. The band's 10th album is titled Former Sight Of, The Former Sight Of.
Yes.
And is out now via Merge Records. Carl, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me.
So we are taping this exactly 1 week out from the album's release. How are you feeling?
I mean, good. I mean, there's not really much I can do about it. That sounds kind of negative. You know, like I'm happy that people are hearing it. I mean, we just did some promo stuff in New York and Philadelphia, so it was great. We played like 5 songs from the record, and it was it all feels slightly more real. Every time I play the song, it feels like they come alive slightly more, and that like, oh, okay, it's not just music I've been working on at home or that we've been working on as a band. It's like, okay, here it is. It's out in the world, right. and it's cool. I feel very good about it. From my point of view, like I made the record I wanted to make. So what else can I do? I feel like I did my job.
Yeah, you're a pro at this point.
Yeah, I'm beginning to think that. I'm beginning to think I am a pro.
Yeah. This is the 10th New Pornographers album. Does a milestone like that figure into your thought process of making this at all?
I've only been thinking about the fact that it's the 10th because people have been saying that to me recently. It's your 10th record. I didn't think we were going to last this long just because at the beginning, I remember making Mass Romantic and just finishing the record felt like the triumph. Like that felt like the end of the tunnel. It wasn't like it coming out, or it was just like, it's done. We finally made this. And then everything took on a life of its own. Like, you know, it got attention pretty quickly. And then we started going on tour. And then, you know, Matador signed us. And then so it all had kind of a momentum. Like, I wouldn't have been shocked if nobody had paid attention and Mass Romantic was the only record we ever made. I don't think I would have looked back with tears in my eyes. But then, you know, we got to go on, and it's been hard. It's been, I mean, a lot of shit has happened through the years, and, you know, sometimes it's a fight to keep things together. You know, the album title is a very specific reference to something in upstate New York. But I also liked it because it's like, when you look at the album, it says The Former Sight Of the New Pornographers, which I liked as a title, which is like, we're not the same band we once were. And I think making it the title of the album was my way of saying, like, I know that, and that's kind of what I want it to be.
Yeah.
Like, I think I always wanted us to like change. I always wanted the band to be interesting to me. Like on Twin Cinema, I remember thinking like, oh my God, we're spinning our wheels. You know, like some of the most popular songs we've ever released. When I put them out, I just thought, use it just sounds like something that might be on Mass Romantic or Electric Version. But, you know, of course, that's what people want to hear. They want to hear stuff that sounds exactly like you. So, I mean, I think I've always wanted us to evolve, and so I guess that's what we did. So some things are just kind of forced upon you. Some things you do on your own, like life, I suppose.
Yeah, exactly. Did you have a particular sound in mind when you started this recording? I sort of feel like this might be the synthiest New Pornographers album.
You think?
Yeah, I don't know.
No, I didn't. I mean, I think Brill Bruisers has more synthesizers than this one. I think maybe the difference is that like we had our other albums might have been like, not that they sounded exactly like the Cars, but you know how like the Cars were ultimately like driven by guitars, but then Greg Hawkes would do his cool keyboard stuff. I think we did more of that. Whereas like this might seem the synthiest because there are songs that are very much driven by the synth.
I think that's what I meant.
Like the synth on the song, The Former Sight of, there's like a synth that is basically the rhythm section of the song for like the first 2 or 3 minutes.
Right.
I don't know if we've done that much before. I mean, but I also feel it's funny. I've never really thought of that, it being the most synth heavy record, but I guess it is. I didn't really know what we were doing until we got a few songs into it. Like you just work on the songs and you just think, what do you like? The things that I stumbled upon were like, okay, this is cool. Like I think what became the song, The Former Sight of, I think I was just messing around with that synth line for a long time. I just thought it sounded cool. It was just something I just came up with in the studio, and I thought that's cool. It's like, can I turn that into a song? And then, you know, and I figured it out. All the songs I've realized are like puzzles to me, but it's like a puzzle that you create your own puzzle, and you don't know what the answer is. You don't even know if there should be an answer, but I've realized every song has an answer. There is a correct answer, and it just takes a while to find it.
Can you give a good example of that on this record?
My God, almost every song.
Okay.
Almost every song was like, what is the central part of the song? Like what makes it move? In the song Votive, I think when I added the mandolin to it, I thought, okay, this is the center. This is the center of the song. Or like I just said, the Former Sight of, I had that arpeggiator synthesizer that runs through the first few minutes, and I thought, okay, well, this is the springboard of the song. This is what we're gonna ride along. Or in the song Pure Sticker Shock, there's a kind of synth that drives the whole thing. And again, and in a similar way, it was like I came up with that, and it was like, okay, well, this is what the band should follow. You know, like this is what the bass should play with. This is what the drums should play with. And that one came out. I was really happy about that. I'm happy when you can make something you like with very few elements. You know, to me, that feels ideal. We've always been called a maximalist band, and I think I never really wanted to be. I always thought the fact that we were maximalist was kind of a weakness. I always admired bands like Clinic or Spoon that were like really cool and minimalist. So on a song like Pure Sticker Shock, when I realized, okay, we've got that cool bass line, we've got the drums, we've got that synth, and we've got the vocals, and it's like, it's done. Like that's all we need. There's just so many different approaches to songs. Like the song Wine Remembers the Water used to be a much longer song, and then I just cut it down to the part that I really loved. I really liked the lyrics. I kind of like the little melody and the lyrics that I had in that little 1 minute 40-second long snippet. So I thought it will just be 1 minute and 40 seconds long in the middle of the record. A little what do you call those things? Not an intermission, but you know, an amuse-bouche, whatever you call it,
or a palate cleanser.
Yeah.
It's the melon sorbet before the entree, you know, or
yeah. Because I think on this record, I think I was trying to like eliminate anything that I thought was unnecessary. Like even just coming down to like notes and words, just feeling like if I said something in the song and it's already been said, maybe I don't need to say it again. Or, you know, some lyrics just seem kind of decorative, like they're cool, but you can pull them out and it doesn't change the story of the song at all. So I thought, let's pull it out. I mean, one thing I learned on this record, which should be the most obvious thing in the world, but it took me so many years to learn it. And maybe it's just a theory, but I think in terms of like mixing and arranging, I didn't want to put anything in the song that couldn't be the loudest thing.
Okay.
Like if there was an element that feels wrong, if you turn it up, I'm like, well, it shouldn't be there.
Oh.
So, and that that makes it a lot easier for me to listen to the record, because when you listen to the album on different stereos, the mix changes a little bit, because, you know, some stereos bring out the bass, and, you know, some are a little more tinnier. They bring out the high end, or some make you hear the vocals more. So I wanted to mix something where I didn't care if the mix was slightly different, because I felt like any element in the song could be loud and it wouldn't bother me.
The way this record sounds, there's almost kind of a sound designy vibe to it to me, and maybe that's like another on the synthy, and it has like a big 80s vibe to me at times. I ask bands about this a lot, and nobody is interested in the technology of Dolby Atmos at all, but I sort of imagine this album would sound really cool in that situation. Not that I've ever actually heard a Dolby Atmos mix of anything.
Maybe it would. I'd be kind of curious. It's funny. I never thought of this as being a particularly 80s record, or if it's an 80s, it's from an 80s that didn't quite exist. Maybe. I know the song Pure Sticker Shock, when we were mixing it, John said he was really into it because it reminded him of like something from like the late 70s. Like, I think he even threw around Supertramp, even though I don't. But I think he just said, "Oh, I love this because it sounds like something from like 1979." And I thought, good.
Right.
And the song Great Princess Story, when we were mixing it, I remember Catherine saying, "This reminds me of something, but I don't know if you're going to like it." And I said, "No, tell me." And she said, "It reminds me of 80s Peter Gabriel." And I said, "No, that's awesome, because I love when you approach things, when you arrive somewhere unintentionally. Like I don't listen to 80s Peter Gabriel. In fact, I think that the only songs I know are the ones I heard on the radio in the 80s. But the fact that something like that came out accidentally, I think is cool. I'm interested to hear what people think, because I have no, you know, I'm always interested to hear what people think about a record, because I just don't know what I've made, you know, because I never go into it thinking I was trying to make a rockabilly record. Did I make a rockabilly record? Or, you know, I was trying to make a 60s garage album. Did I do that? I always come out the other side thinking like, I don't know what I did. You know, I know it's a combination of influences, you know, because I think you make the records that you want to hear. So I think it's a combination of like a lot of music that I like, you know, that some of it comes out intentionally, but most of it unintentionally.
I particularly love, that like 79 to like 84 era of production. I think I'm always hearing that in stuff, or wanting to hear stuff in that, whether that's the actual intention. You know, people who have never heard that stuff will never make that comparison.
I was just talking to somebody about this, like the music that came out when I was like about 10 or 11 is some of my favorite music of all time. And not just the cool stuff, you know, not just the Cars and Blondie and Devo and the B-52s. Baker Street by Jerry Rafferty, or What a Fool Believes by the Doobie Brothers, or even later period Who, like You Better You Bet. That's one of my all-time favorite. Or like Under Pressure, like one of my all-time favorite songs. Like sometimes I think, that I was lucky. I was lucky to be a kid during such a point when like popular music was so good and so cool. Yeah. There's definitely a part of that in the band. Like a few years ago, we recorded drums with this guy named Jack Endino, who was a famous grunge producer. He did like Soundgarden and Nirvana. He said, "I think I could guess how old you guys are just from the influences in your music." And then he was almost exactly right. I guess he sees that working with bands all the time. You can, like, certain bands have certain influences that are from their childhood, you know, that stuff that sticks with them.
I was going to say, on that note, Votive, you were saying like has the mandolin, but it wasn't until I read your Substack that I even realized there was mandolin on that song. You sort of made it like New Order mandolin or something. There's almost like a Peter Hook, like at the start. Later you have there's like a riff. That's almost like post-punk mandolin or something.
Yeah. When it just becomes a two note, it just becomes just pedaling between two notes.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was there was nothing super intentional there. I think I had an idea that might have been a guitar, but I thought, why not play it on the mandolin? I don't play mandolin, and it's harder to play mandolin chords than it is to play single notes. So everything I did, if I wanted it to sound cool, I realized, okay, screw the chords. And plus, there's a natural power chord in there anyways, because like every time you play a single note, you're playing two notes, because the mandolin is 4 sets of 2 notes.
Right.
That felt like a very happy accident.
You mentioned Great Princess Stories. How do you choose a first song on a record? I think it's a really good like table setting song for the album.
Well, yeah, I would call it a declaration of intent. Like, I think on the first song, you're trying to say like, well, this is where we're going. I think, like, I always think of Fables of the Reconstruction, how it opened with Feeling Gravity's Pull, which I always thought was like REM's way of saying like, we're moving somewhere new. So I think I thought about that with this song. That is like, okay, it just has kind of a vibe. Like Great Princess Story and Former Sight both felt like they had like the vibe of, a first or a last song. So I made them the first and the last song. Yeah, I don't know. It just was what it was.
Yeah. You could almost imagine it being the first song in a musical or something like that.
Yeah, I could see that. I mean, the thing about Great Princess Story for me was like, I'm still doing it. I'm trying to see like how far you can go just using 2 chords. Because I think that most of that song just pedals back and forth between A and G. It just goes like boom, boom, boom. And, obviously I'm not, it's the syncopation and the timing of it's a little different. I think it's a fun exercise because I think in the past I've like made songs that are kind of really complicated in terms of like the chords and the structure. And now I'm trying to figure out like how complicated can I make a simple song? And sometimes people are shocked when they listen to our songs and I tell them, oh, that's only got 3 chords. It's only got 3 chords. It's just that it's only got 2 chords. It's just that I'm playing it I'm throwing them together in odd ways to make it feel like there are more chords. But
New Order made a meal of 2 chords on Power, Corruption, and Lies.
Yeah, exactly. There's an entire world in there. It always annoys me when people say things like, whenever anybody's defending all music that sounds like other music, they always say, well, there's only 12 notes, which I just think is the dumbest take on earth.
Yeah.
It's like, well, also, arguably there are more than 12 notes. And also there's an infinite amount of combinations,
Yeah.
So like to say there's only 12 notes. So I kind of had to sound like Norwegian would when you think about it, I just don't really buy it.
We are a New York-based site. It's right there in our name. So we have to talk about the Ballad of the Last Payphone, which is about the last payphone that got moved to the Museum of New York. Is that a true story? Did you actually go visit it?
No. It was it's basically, the story of the payphone is true, but the story within the song is just fictional. It was just about a guy. I mean, the story I was trying to communicate was the guy who goes to visit the payphone, and he's not exactly sure why he's so fascinated by it. But, to me, it feels like it's for obvious reasons because the payphone was abandoned. The payphone, the payphone used to be somebody. It used to be central to like New York's life, and now it's gone. It's been discarded. That's essentially what the song is about. Just like where hopefully like the listener understands why he's fascinated by the payphone, but he doesn't. He just looks at it.
I really like that line: first comes love, then comes pity, then it's terminal velocity.
It's funny that the origin of that line kind of had nothing to do with the payphone. There was a song by the French singer from the 60s. Actually, she might still be alive. Sylvie Vartan. Do you know Sylvie Vartan?
I don't.
She was a huge star, kind of like Françoise Hardy in the 60s and going forward. She was married to Johnny Hallyday. And she had a song in the late 60s called Par amour, par pitié, which is this beautiful song, which translates to for love or pity. And I was going to try covering it. I thought I'll translate it into English. And then I thought, why am I doing this? Suddenly it just seemed pointless. Like, well, am I really going to add anything to this by like doing it in English? But I like the idea of like love or pity. And then out of that came first comes love, then comes pity, then terminal velocity, which is a take on the old childhood sing-song rhyme.
Right. Yeah. First comes love, then comes marriage.
Yeah.
Baby carriage, something.
And then, so I kind of had that line, and then sometimes when you're writing, you just find something, it's like, oh, this fits. You know, like I had a line, what can I do with it? And I'm like, oh, it very much fits in the story I'm trying to tell here. First comes love. Everybody loves a payphone, and then it's gone. Then comes pity, and then it's just the end. You know?
Yep.
Yeah, I was pretty happy with that line. It was this was kind of an interesting record to write because I was like trying to write in a way that I'd never really written before, and that I was really concerned with the lyrics, like they had to be correct, like, you know, to the extent that I did research on these songs, which is something I've never done before. I had to go like, where is the payphone? Oh, it's in the Museum of the City of New York. Or like, if this satellite's going to be circling Saturn, what's it going to see? What would you see if you were circling Saturn? Or what did the towns look like in upstate New York in 1905 before they were flooded by the city? Things like that, just making sure like I got the details right. Like I didn't want to be, I mean, I include myself in this. Like, I think a lot of lyrics are just complete bullshit. They're just gobbledygook, you know? And I've always thought that was cool, you know?
Yeah.
Especially when it's honest gobbledygook, you know?
Right.
Then there are the people that just write gobbledygook and try and pretend it's something deep. In this one, it felt important to me that it was like, that I could defend basically every line. You know, like I could defend my thesis. If somebody asks me, like, what does that line mean? I go, it means this. It's in reference to this, and it's about this, and this is how it fits into the overall theme. That like it's odd to be. I've never had a record where I could talk at length about it to such a great degree. I mean, to the degree that you ask me about that line, and I'll be like, I'll tell you exactly why I put that line in there and where it came from.
Right. I was actually going to say, I remember listening to The Slow Wonder when it came out. It's a record I love, and thinking, I have no idea what he's talking about, but I love the way it sounds. This record, I feel like I know what you're talking about on every single song.
Yeah, I mean, that was very specific. It's harder to talk about a record sometimes when you're saying, well, I wasn't trying to communicate anything really, you know? I think in the past, I thought of my lyrics as something that was like just non-representational art. Sometimes it was about something. Like I think about like one of my favorite artists is Paul Klee. You know, like I go to the MoMA and I look at a Paul Klee painting. It's like, I have no idea what this is about. And I don't even want to know what it's about. You know, I just know that I look at it and I think it's beautiful. And there's something in there that appeals to me as compared to the next artist in the next room who's doing non-representational art. It's like, what is it about this? I don't even know if it's the color. I don't know what it is, but I've always thought that was kind of fascinating. But you know, on this record, yeah, now I'm trying to paint landscapes. You know, now I'm trying to be like the Flemish masters. You know? Is that what they were? What was Rembrandt and all those people? What were they? Flemish?
You're asking the wrong guy, unfortunately. Okay. One of my favorite songs on the album is Bonus My Tais, which is obviously a very heavy track, but also very affecting. Like I could relate to it sort of. And again, on a sonic level, I just love the way this one sounds, like Nico and Catherine's backing Oz. It's very 10cc almost, but in like a modern way that they I love snap 10C. In and out.
I love 10cc. You couldn't have picked a better compliment. Yeah, you know, I felt very happy with that one. That one took a long time to like come together, and there's something weird in that song. I don't know if people noticed it when they listen to it. It goes from double time to halftime. I mean, I don't know if that's the right way to put it. Double time to halftime would be like the song down. But whatever the case, like when the drums come in, the band is at like a halftime compared to what it was. Like, because the beginning is like, the sidereal doo-wop of the rain. But then when the drums come in, it's like, the sidereal doo-wop of the rain.
Oh, yeah.
Like, so I thought, to me, that felt like a cool sleight of hand, where like usually the song speeds up when the drums hit. But the song slowed down. But I felt like it slows down in a way that is not very noticeable. Because the vocals don't slow down. It's just like and lyrically, that one took me a long, long time to write, because it was about something. It's all very true. It's aside from a few details, it's very true. And I felt like, I wanted to nail it. It was about a friend who died of cancer, and it was about visiting her, and they made my tais, and yeah, it was like talking to somebody who had almost died and was kind of accepting their death, and was saying like, this is my bonus time. Like, this is my bonus time on earth, trying to look at it like I'm lucky to have every day. And like, this is my bonus Mai Tai, like, because everything I'm doing. And I thought it was obviously kind of crushingly sad, but also like the beauty of somebody trying to like get to the end of their life with some grace.
Yeah.
With grace and love, I think is, it was very, very kind of inspiring.
When I was reading the lyrics and listening to the song, but you talking now makes me think it's not. Originally I thought maybe this song was set at the Tonga Room in San Francisco.
No. I know the place though. No, it was just they were people that, since I was young. I mean, I don't know if everybody has friends like that. Like, when you're in your like early 20s, all the parties are like BYOB, like I'm having a party, show up with a 6-pack, and they were the people I knew. They were having a party, and they would have like fancy drinks, and it would always be a different drink. And I remember that from long ago when they were like 23, and then going back there again, like many years later, when they're going through this horrible life change, like, and they're still doing it. Like they're still making drinks for their friends.
There's a line where you talk about the rain, and I just, in the Tonga Room, it rains every 20 minutes. That's part of what happens there. So that's the only reason why I really thought that.
It's funny you bring that up, because I've had an idea just thinking about the next songs I'm writing. And I lived in San Francisco for a while, and it wasn't the Tonga Room, but there was another tiki bar. It was on Geary Street. And I just had this idea about a song set in a tiki bar in San Francisco. So it's not that far removed from the Tonga Room. The Tonga Room's in a hotel, right? It's in the basement of a really nice hotel.
Yeah.
I know the place.
I haven't been there in 25 years, so.
Yeah, it's possible. Possibly the same for me.
And also, there's the line, Thompson twins, they never miss, or they always hit, or something.
Or they rarely miss.
Rarely miss. What was there a song specifically that's playing in that?
I guess the song I was thinking of is "Hold Me Now," but it's not that I recall it even playing, and maybe it didn't play, but I knew she loved that song. In this little vignette, I thought that song would be playing, and just trying to paint an honest picture, just so in case someone like you asked me, I'll go, well, here's why.
Right.
Here's why I chose the Thompson twins as opposed to, whatever, Fun Boy 3, because I had to do with her, because she really liked it.
Your drummer on this album is Charlie Drayton, who has played on a bunch of stuff. How did he enter your orbit?
He's a friend. His partner is like, it's always weird trying to describe people who are together but not married.
Anyway.
But yeah, his partner is really good friends with my wife. So I knew him. It never occurred to me to ask him to do it, but a few weeks after everything had gone down last year, he was asking like, how's Carl doing? He said, well, they got to find a new drummer. And of course, and he said, Charlie just said, well, tell him to call me. And that was amazing, because I would have felt weird about calling him, because he's such a big deal.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, so he did it, and it was amazing to be in the studio with him. I felt like I played with great drummers through my life, but I realized I'd never played with a drummer like that good, who has such an insane touch that we didn't even really have to mix his drums. Like the drums, he just, a drummer who like knows how to just play where like the hi-hats and the cymbals are the right volume, so that the kit coming off the floor and the way it's mic'd. And also he had an insane sense of like how to mic drums. Like he would say, hey, that ribbon mic 10 feet, can you just push it about 2 feet further away? And then it'd be like, oh, there it is. It's perfect. And so there are some songs where I think we just took the day mix of the drums. The day mix being like, I just want the stereo mix of the drums, and the engineer would just kind of have a faders up mix and go, here you go. And I thought, well, there's nothing much we need to do to this. And when the drums are so in their place like that, you can crank them, because there's nothing in there that's getting in the way. So that was cool. I'm so happy he did it. Like for all the shit we went through in the last year, I feel like, well, our record's better. Our record's better because we went through all that. We sound like a better band.
Right. Is he touring with you?
No, I would never.
Oh, okay.
But our drummer is going to be Josh Wells, who plays with Black Mountain and Destroyer, who I love. And I love that he's an old Vancouver guy. He lives in Chicago now, but I love that it's somebody that we've known for like 25 years from like way back in the day. And, we're bringing in, and we all know him, and we know he's awesome. So I think it's going to be it's great to bring in somebody who's new, but also feels like who's been with us a long time.
Right. Yeah. Awesome. A little swerve in topics here. Mastermatic came out in 2000, and New Pornographers were really on the rise throughout the 2000s. You lived in Brooklyn in the mid 2000s. Question: Are New Pornographers indie sleaze?
No, not at all. To a hilarious degree, we are not. I remember being around, like, I mean, I didn't move there until like around fall of 2005, but I remember like being at like weird little events in like Brooklyn in like 2001 or 2002. And it's weird to think back that, people think that was an absolutely legendary time and era and place. Maybe it was, but I don't know. I never really felt part of it. And, I think there's something about when your half niece is in the band, I think that just naturally negates the idea of indie sleaze. I think there's always something very, kind of like family friendly about us, even though, we are called the New Pornographers. I think, it's strange because our name always kind of like stopped us, from doing things. Like we never got to be on Yo Gabba Gabba, even though we would have fit perfectly because you are called the New Pornographers. We never got to be the CD on the front counter at Starbucks because we were called the New Pornographers, and we were actually told that, like we'd like to have you in Starbucks, but your name is too offensive. So
right,
we were like. Yeah, we're like kind of caught between worlds, I guess. We sound like we're sleazy, but we're not.
You guys have obviously played tons of New York shows. Do you have any particular ones that come to mind as being memorable?
I mean, a lot of them. I mean, I always remember, for some reason, when we played Warsaw, I think it was...
That's very early.
Yeah, when was it? It might have been 2002. It might have been early 2000. It might have been like February 2002, I think, or maybe it was in 2001. I just remember it because it was like our first really like, it felt big. I don't know how big that place is. Maybe it's 900 or 1,000. I mean, all the early shows it's always more exciting. Our first ever show was at it used to be Brownies. Now I think it's called Hi-Fi or something.
Now it's called Lucinda's. It's owned by Lucinda Williams.
Right. Somebody just told me that. Like, I'd never felt more hugely popular in New York than like having like 200 people in Brownies, which I think was probably capacity.
Right.
And that it just felt exciting. Like, holy shit, something's happening. There's just something exciting about like a small club that sold out. And then our next show was at the Bowery, and nobody thought we could sell out the Bowery because like, well, that's 600 tickets, and we sold it out, and was like, what? I can't believe we sold out the Bowery Ballroom. And then, you know, our next show was Warsaw, and it just felt like, wow. And then we sold this one out too, and that was like 800 or 900 tickets. In Brooklyn, where we never played. So it was I mean, it's always been exciting. And then, you know, years later on like Brill Bruisers, I remember playing, I don't remember the name of the place. Was it Roseland or something?
Yeah.
I don't remember.
But you also played the Brill building for Brill Bruisers.
Yes. That was interesting. They built a little stage in there.
Yeah.
I mean, New York's always been such a central place for me. I mean, it's where our label is, and it's where I met my wife because she worked at Matador Beggars.
Your wedding got reviewed in the New York Times.
Yes, exactly. And it was also an exciting time to be in New York because of like all the comedy. I mean, there's always interesting comedy going on in New York, but before I moved there, like I knew David Cross a little bit, and like through him I met like Kristen Schaal and Eugene Merman or H. John Benjamin, or like there's all these, you know, I remember encountering a young Aziz Ansari, you know, like pre-fame, because he was around. It was interesting to see all these people who were just on the cusp. Or like I met Kristen Schaal about 2 weeks before Flight of the Conchords came out.
Uh-huh.
So it was funny to be hanging out with this person, and then the next time I saw her, I was like, "You're famous now." You know?
Right. I remember you played 2 nights at the Nokia Theater with Belle and Sebastian.
Right.
And the one that I was at had a special guest. Do you remember who that was?
Yeah, it was a Matter of Trust. I was just hanging out with John Glazer, actually. You know, the comedian. He was one of the guys in the band. He was in Woodstock house sitting for somebody, so I got to hang out with him a few weeks ago, which is very cool. I love him as a person and one of my all-time favorite comedians.
Yeah,
I really put him up there, underrated, I'd say. It was cool too. And Todd Barry played in the band, and and John Benjamin was the singer.
For people who don't know, A Matter of Trust was a cover band who only did Billy Joel's A Matter of Trust, and it was John Benjamin, Todd Barry, and John Glazer, right?
And there was a couple other people.
Okay.
There's a guy whose face I can see, who all he did was sing backups. He just kind of danced and sang like, just a matter of trust, or whatever it was.
Right.
I feel like there might have been another person in the band. That was a fun night. I remember Dimitri Martin was backstage. And Eugene was there. I remember Eugene was there. You know, I felt like it was just kind of a fun thing. Like it was fun just to have all, and Belle and Sebastian were very cool. So they were willing to like let something like that happen. They were game for things that were funny. Yeah, that was right. It's funny. I remember that night I didn't go because I lived in New York at that point, and it wasn't Party Central anymore. Instead of staying out all night, I was like, I'm going home. But it was 2006, and everybody went to like an LCD Sound System DJ night.
Well, right.
And it was at a point when they weren't like huge yet.
Right.
You know? So sometimes I think, oh, I should have gone to that. I should have gone to the LCD DJ set. But, you know, I went back to my apartment with my girlfriend. Yeah. New York it's always been, like, I love it there. And, you know, we only live 2.5, 3 hours from it now. I love going back there. My son loves going there. It's funny. Catherine's daughter, who's 4.5, she really loves the animated movie, The Secret Life of Pets. Which is all about dogs. It's all about animals who live in apartments in New York City, and then all takes in New York City. So her daughter is just fascinated with New York City. She's like, can we move to New York City? It's like, well, it's kind of expensive and you won't have a house anymore. You'll have an apartment.
Cute. Well, Carl, I'm not going to take up too much more of your time here. Is there anything else we need to know?
I don't think so. I mean, I just want people to listen to the record. That's all I've been saying. You don't have to like the record, but I'd like people to actually listen to it because it was built to be listened to.
We always ask our guests the last question if they could name 5 records that they think everybody should own. I don't know if you were prepped at all for this, and if not, whatever comes to mind.
Well, I've never been much of a jazz person, but there's a few jazz records I liked. Like I really liked what's it called? Volunteered Slavery by Roland Kirk. I realized I like these jazz records that are jazz artists kind of moving away from jazz. And so I've been looking for more of that music. And I just found a record that I really like. It's a jazz record from 1969 called The Giant Has Awakened by the Horace Tapscott Quintet. That's a very cool record. And I really like, this is all in kind of weirdo, jazz adjacent stuff. Not all weirdo, but jazz adjacent. Lord of Lords, the Alice Coltrane record. What else is there? I really like the Joe Henderson, Alice Coltrane album, The Elements. In music, I discovered a band they're a Portland band who's not together anymore called Lithics. Have you ever heard of Lithics?
I have.
Really kind of cool.
Minimal post-punky.
Yeah, with that kind of like emotionless, cool female singer. I've been really liking them. A band that I think is still around. They're a duo called Writhing. This is the most recent thing I've been listening to. Writhing Squares. They're like a duo or a trio. I'm not sure where they're from, but it's like drums, bass, and saxophone. It's almost like somewhere between The Fall and Morphine. I mean, there's a lot of stuff.
Yeah,
I've been sifting through old Sun Ra and finding some songs that are some of my favorite songs of all time. But it's hard to find Sun Ra records that I was like all the way through.
Right.
I don't know. How many was I supposed to list?
That's 5. That's about 8. So
okay. Was it that great. Many? Yeah, I guess it was.
Yeah. I was looking through your best of 2025 list, and I saw that you put the Memorials record on there.
Oh yeah, I love that.
And their new album comes out next week too. So
yeah, I just found out about that. I was at my son's tennis practice, and one of the mums there was at the Memorials show.
Oh, at Tubby's or
at Tubby's, yeah.
Yeah.
And so I remember she said to me, like, "Did you see there's a new Memorials record?" I said, "No, I'm gonna check it out." So I've just heard 2 songs from it because only a few songs have been released, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I loved them. They were very, very cool.
Yeah. All right, Carl. Well, I think that's going to do it. Thanks so much for making time so close to the release of your record, and this has been fun.
Yeah, thanks for talking to me.
All right, thanks again to Carl Newman of the New Pornographers for being on this week's show. Be sure to check out their great new album, The Former Sight Of, which is out now on Merge Records, and catch them on tour very soon. Meanwhile, you should also check out our other podcast, BV Weekly, where my coworkers Dave and Andrew, and occasionally myself and Amanda, discuss the week's hot button music news, the latest releases, and more. You can also follow Brooklyn Vegan on social media, and if you like this episode, be sure to tell your musically minded friends about it, as well as do all those other things. You know what I'm talking about. Like, subscribe, write us a review, give us 5 stars, all that kind of stuff. It really does help us reach more ears. Big thanks to our mix engineer Nick Gray and Michael Silverstein for the theme music. I'm Bill Pearis. Thanks for listening.